storm in the crypto market does look like it's slowing down, but a lot of people suggest that a hurricane is on its way. So now you literally stand here and ask, like, okay, we have gone through a worse day, we have gone through a worse week, we got all of those. Now, what's next? If the inflation rates which are going to come soon is going to be higher than what it has been, then Bank of International Settlements is actually pushing that narrative where you can be observing central banks going aggressive. Now, the only way central banks can go aggressive is increasing the interest rate, which kind of reduces the purchasing power of a lot of industries, and then slowly the market slows down by killing the market. Fine. So if you are looking inside the crypto market, you do see, like, okay, we have fluctuations, we have corrections every now and then, and with these announcements, it actually hurts the market in different ways. Now, all of these are short term, so if you are in the market looking at this storm, you know that this storm will also pass. But some of the key concerns which you have to look at here is, like, say, XRP has bounced, I agree. But right now, you're actually at a point where you have the long-term trend line and the short-term trend line. So you now have to break both of them. Now, as you break through, this is the scenario. If you break through that, that's actually great news. You're coming back up. If not, you're going back to test the lows which you have put in before. That's like 0.29, 0.25. You can actually drop that level. Because if the market is still going to see a lot more pain coming in just because of the inflation rates, which we already know that the inflation rates from CPI is much lower. We do know that. At least most of us do. So when you look at the market and say, like, okay, there is a huge possibility that you should be in assets so that your money is not killed, that's the biggest stuff which a lot of human beings are not considering. If you're entering into a high inflationary world, that means if you have fiat, that's actually going to be worthless. If you're on the assets, at least you are preserving your purchasing power in that 1-2 year scenario when the fiat currencies drop. As the interest rate goes higher, with central banks being pushed to that edge where they have to go against this, you're going to see utility assets going back up. Now, we all know the narrative there. And this one is actually from Alessio. Shout out to him highlighting this UK consumer confidence have dropped to this level which we haven't seen from 1970s. So that does mean that the market is at that point, right? So if you are looking at this, it's like, okay, 2008, we had a global financial crisis back then. But the market doesn't stay there. It was a storm, it was a huge storm, but that too shall pass. And the market slowly goes back up. So if you are inside this market feeling the pain, understand what you own. If you see the payment structure, where the world is heading, all the central banks are pushing this narrative. So if you are looking at the fintech services, you'll see like this. If you are looking at the disruptive alternatives, that's what we are talking about. So we all do understand that there is a huge shift in the macroeconomic situation where they are all now pushing towards central bank digital currencies and new payment structure. And we are kind of sure that this one is not going to work, right? It's not scalable, and their leader on video has actually suggested, like, okay, that's not scalable, so we are actually building something better. Now, they haven't gone live from a long period of time. So if you are looking at all this and you're saying, like, okay, that's a huge positive news coming into the market, you do have short-term volatility, you will get that, right? And one of the reasons why you look at the market and say, okay, there is a possibility this may bounce, is like you look at the indicators and the price pattern. And eventually, the market responds in a similar way. That's historical pattern. And you're looking at this, okay, you may go drop down. Fine. Now, when you go there, you anticipate that the market is going to bounce from this one, right? And when the market does that, that's a good news. But if you are about to slow down, then you are going to get this level as a resistance and you may go back down. It all depends on what the market is doing. So right now, when you look at this, we've talked about this, right? Okay, you're getting a resistance here. So if you go lower, that's actually good for altcoins. But if Bitcoin drops below to a new low, that's bad for the entire market. The sentiment goes like this for another week. So you come lower and you look at the market and ask that question to yourself, like, okay, what the market will be doing in next 24 hours is critical. Especially how this week is going to close is critical. In few hours from now, you're going to get the candle close here. That's a weekly candle close, and if you manage to close here, fine, you have a bullish week, but that did not actually erase this capitulation phase, right? If you're observing this one, we need to break through that one and close. Now, there are certain assets which are doing that right now in this market, but not all assets are doing that. So if you are looking at XRP, you need to look at XRP in multiple different ways so that you now understand, okay, what are the odds for XRP to bounce higher. Welcome to the Scientific Investor family, where we discuss crypto and science behind investing regularly. So as we see here, price do show us some patterns suggesting, okay, we may be doing this particular step. So once you get back about this, that gives you that narrative, okay, you're breaking through this, but that doesn't mean you're going to fly. You do have the previous support, which will be acting as a resistance as you go higher. So once you break that level, you need to see this breaking. That's important. This is XRP BTC, just below the 200-day moving average on a 3-day chart. If you're able to move above this one, that is a bullish narrative showing the price on dollar terms would be going much higher. Yeah, you're getting the volume in green, you're getting the price action in green, positive, but you did not actually break through this. What you want here is Ether to slow down and XRP to hold on, or else you need to actually see that Ether drops 10%, XRP drop 5%. That still is a good news, showing that the market is actually rebalancing, where XRP is slowly gaining strength, or else Ether actually pumps 5% and XRP is going 10%. So this is a scenario here which we are looking at, forming a double bottom, a breakout, and then moving higher. So that move higher is what we are all waiting for, because the extreme pain scenario which we have seen in the history has passed. That's what I believe. We have seen this capitulation like 55% before, back in 2018, and then in 2020 another 60% drop. Great. Right now we have seen close to 64% capitulation after this continuation pattern here. So that, I think, is huge pain. That's a heavy pain in the market. Now, does that actually mean like we have hit the bottom? Chances are that we have already hit the bottom. Looking at the price action, the long wicks which we had here in the correction of wave 1, I think this is wave 2 and bottom. But there are individuals or the thought process showing, okay, we may go to $10,000, we may go to $8,000. So that's a narrative in the market which you have to look at. But I would say strongly look at the market. Take your time, look at the market and ask that question to yourself. If the market has been bottoming on this trend line from a long period of time, when you look at the charts and you are like, okay, this has been a strong support. 200-day moving average is acting as a support. So the chances are altcoin market may actually bounce higher and the Bitcoin dominance may drop lower. So that scenario gives you the ability to see, okay, most of your coins are holding or moving higher. That's all season starting. And from there on, now you have to look at the coins themselves with USD value. And with that, if you break through one of the heavy resistance zone, there's one for XRP, and if you're going for Ether, the Ether price action actually broke through a critical level, right? Now it does have to go above that. So for Ether, it do need to break above 2,400. That's literally like double the price from where it is right now. Unless that happens, it can still be a move higher. I agree, it come back up, but then again it may drop to the downside to retest the bottom. So as it comes lower, now we are looking at the volume. You need volume to be green at that point. You don't need red volume, because if you get red volume, which is way higher than the previous ones, it shows like, okay, sellers are entering, or people do think like, okay, this project is slowing down, you don't have to be on this project, or there's a lot of uncertainty with this particular project. So if you are here to look at the crypto projects and look like, okay, I want to be on a strong project, you would first look at the fundamentals. You would look like, okay, what you should first look at before you enter, right? So if you are there in that situation, you need to actually look at this particular video where we've discussed through that my questions before I asked why I bought XRP, why I'm holding XRP. So if you have different assets and you look at the same question and the project and you feel like, okay, that's strong, fine, now hold on to that project. Now when you see red numbers in last 24 hours, you do have to look at last 7 days too. Fine, that doesn't actually mean you're only looking at last 7 days window, because to see opportunities you have to go look at last 30 days. You are now looking at last quarter and then a year. So now it gives you a narrative. Okay, now in just last week something changed, you are moving up, and you go look at the volume. Then you're looking at the 30-day scenario to see like, okay, have we made a higher high? Say here in Uniswap, if you actually go look at the chart, just for an example, you go look at Uniswap here and it's on a weekly. So if you're looking at a 30-day window, you're actually getting a little bit tighter chart. So now we move on to a 3-day chart, and this shows you stuff which we are talking about. Now we call out this breakout, right? So highlighting like the buying volume is increasing. So these are our targets. Now if you were back here, now you got the price before the breakout, that's actually cool, great. But right now, when the market is slowing down, you go into a daily chart and ask yourself, is there a possibility that we are going to get another huge volume candle pushing the price even higher? Now I would say yes. Why? Because this is a pattern breakout which you got, and that's actually a bullish pattern breaking to the upside. That's great. But now you have a horizontal resistance level close here where you're about to break that one. So once you break this one, you're going to get another volume where you are going to push through. Now these are just examples in the market, right? So now you go look at the same stuff again, 7-day, then 30 and a quarter, to understand if you're buying now, it is green candle. Make sure you're not chasing green candle, because on the quarterly it's super high. And now you look at like, okay, on a quarter or a year, you're still much lower, and just last week it shows like we are reversing. Now that gives you a little bit more time to say like, okay, the market is slowing down, but you are slowly getting more volume here in this particular asset. Now that's actually attractive if you are looking at a lot of different assets. You can go through first 100, you can go through first 200. You do this and make sure there is huge volume coming in. Now if you have 10 assets in your portfolio, what you will have to do is go sit there, write it down, last 7 days, last 30 days, last quarter, what's that particular asset doing? If you're like, okay, last 1 year it's a negative 70%, last quarter it's negative 50%, but right now last 7 days are moving in green, last 30 days are moving in green. So most likely with 1 quarter coming in, I'm going to turn that red number into green number. So you are looking at each of those assets in your portfolio and make sure you have that ability to reach next 1 year in 5x, 10x, 20x from where you are right now. Because the market itself shows you it has a potential to do 100x or more. When it does 100x, if you are not even reaching 10x, that's bad. If you can get 25, 50x with low risk, that's huge. Now, if you can get 100, that's perfect. So you need to choose assets wisely. And that's why in the Patreon, we try to give you that narrative where we are breaking higher. If you want to trade, and if you hold this asset, you're like, okay, you know where to take some of your profits out, because there can be selling volume coming in and slowing down the price. If you want that kind of updates, you can look at the Patreon. The link is given in the description below. So you now know what's a breakout and where the breakout is coming, what your targets are before you even think about taking profits. So you don't have to take the profit at the target. You can take 3 or 4% below that. That's safe. That's great. If you do that 80% of the time, you now make profit on 90% of your trade. Now you have to follow a set of rules which make sense, because if you are playing any game, you need to follow rules. And if you are here to become an XRP millionaire, that's why these rules are going to be super important for you. If you haven't watched that video, go give it a check. And if you feel like, okay, that's great, give it a like. So guys, if you are receiving value for your time here, please do hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll meet you on the next video. Bye for now.